from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stop the boogeyman from terrorizing the nights and curing their boo-boos when they scrape their knees. Now just imagine how they mightest feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calmed. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Saturday's edition of CPS Victims Hunting for Justice. I am your host, Vinny, and we are going to discuss some policies and procedures of CPS. I actually have some in front of me today that I want to read to you guys, and these are of course, statutories according to Maine state law. But I've been looking at their policies and procedures the past couple of weeks, and trying to figure out, what kind of policies and procedures that these people are getting away with not complying to, and which policies we need to have changed in order to better suit the families involved in CPS. I definitely am looking through a lot of these and just shaking my head and going, I see so many families posting online, and making videos and explaining their stories out in the public. And I'm seeing a lot of policies and procedures that CPS is not following. Um, I know that a lot of people may argue the point, but there is policies and procedures that they are not following. So we're going to get started on what their main objective is, as follows policies. It states the child protective investigations is the first step in providing child welfare intervention to families. It is a critical that law, policy, and procedures are followed to ensure child safety within the context and capture and culture of the family, whenever possible, and in the child's best interest, based on completion of fact-based forensic investigations when a child is in circumstance or at risk of child abuse or neglect. The department must take steps to ensure child safety, which at times includes the removal of the child from the home. I'm going to stop right there and say that the child should not be removed from their parents unless there is full on convincing evidence that the parent is either A, abusing the child, or B, is neglecting the child. Those should be the two most active when it comes to policies and procedures, which they don't follow because they try to remove the fathers from the picture so that way they can get at the mother and use the mother as a pawn in their game. Um, we got Mr. Herbert out here. I'm going to get him out here with us. Evening, Mr. Herbert.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. So we're going over policies of uh, and procedures of DHS, CPS, and I'm going to read the rest of these two paragraphs entitled A and B. Receiving reports of abuse and neglect and suspicious child deaths. B. Prompt investigates all above abuse or neglect cases and suspicious child deaths coming to its attention in or in a case out of home abuse and neglect investigations. The department shall act in accordance with subchapter 11A. C1. Determine in each case investigating under paragraph B whether or not the child has been harmed and the degree of harm, threatened harm by a person possible for the care of the child by deciding whether allegations are unsustainable indication or substantiated. Each allegation must be considered separate and may result in a combination of findings. Okay, for instance, guys, they're trying to say here that they're going to use every finding against you. So, in other words, any finding that they find if they come in your home, which you do not have to allow them in your home. That is your right. That is this is your place of living. They do not have a right to enter your home without a warrant or without a search warrant or police escort with them. The only reason they can enter your home is if they have the court order and the search warrant. Without that, you do not let them in your home. You do not have to allow that. Yes, you can tell them, well, you need to come back with an officer, and they'll come back with an officer, but that officer may come back with a court order in hand. Sometimes they lie about it, and I've seen that. Um, so
Now, Vinny, when you say come back with an officer, are you talking about a police officer or a court officer?
usually they come back with a police officer.
No, but
Um,
you said that the parent, are you saying that the parent is telling the CPS worker that they need to come back with an officer
yes,
or with a police officer or a court officer?
with a police officer. I've
Why,
seen it in
why would
many
the parent,
cases.
why would the
I,
parent, why would the parent want a police officer to come?
because it makes it crucial if a police officer is there, because I've seen many videos and posts about it where parents have actually had the cops come out and they said to the officer that CPS has been violating their constitutional rights. They have asked them to leave repeated times off their property, and they haven't done it. And the cop has served them with a paper for violation um, of that person's rights and breaking their policies and procedures, because it states in their policies and procedures that they cannot enter a home if they are told no.
Okay, now I have a better understanding.
So they serve them it's almost like a summons, but it's not. They serve them for trespassing. It's a trespass order. So when
Okay,
CPS is served that order, that's when they retaliate.
okay,
So it goes on to say in the next thing here, it says Staff must follow investigation procedures to ensure all allegations of child abuse and or neglect, as well as additional types of abuse and or neglect, are assessed through family engagement while considering the children's family, culture, race, and ethnic contact with the reference forensics interview with critical case members and corroborate of facts with those who have information regarding the safety of the child. Caseworkers will be thoughtful in their engagement with the family and consider that while they are investigating an allegation, the family is experiencing it. Okay. So if that was the case, I gotta point this out because I see where the failure is there, in that part of that statement, because the child case worker that had showed up to my house, where I was staying, um, did not follow this protocol. She was very rude. I asked her to leave several times. She brought an officer with her. I told the officer, I want you to leave. This is not my property. You are trespassing. She did not follow it. She waited for my wife to open the door and let her in after I said no.
Are you saying that your wife, you said no, but your wife opened the door and allowed her in?
Yes,
Why would your wife do that?
I don't know. It
Okay.
is it is it is beyond me, Herbert. I'm still trying to understand that whole scenario, but I'm trying to run it all through my head. Um, None of it really does make any sense. Hey, Darren, how are you?
What's up, man? How are you?
Good, good.
Hey, I'm designing you a logo right now.
Oh, awesome. Cool, cool. All right. So on to what it says next. For emergency reports and response time frame is 24 hours for receipt of report, which means they have 24 hours to come out to your house from the time they get the report. For non-emergency reports, the response time frame is 3 days from receipt of the report. Well, that doesn't make any sense because I've seen them come out in less than 3 days. I've seen them come out in less than 10 hours. So they're violating their own policy right there, because they're not allowing that 24 hours or that 3 day process.
Was that based on non-emergency or emergency?
That was based on both, 24 hours for emergency and 3 days from reception of report, which is non-emergency. So even with the 24 hours, we had just moved to this place and got all of our stuff there, and they showed up and it wasn't even 24 hours later.
Okay. I don't know. I'm learning from you guys, but when I hear the word emergency and I hear non-emergency, non-emergency to me means we get there when we get there. Emergency means I'll be there in 10 minutes.
But that's where the stipulation is, because it states 24 hours.
So emergency, okay. Are they saying within 24 hours or it has to be 24 hours or more?
It has to be within 24 hours.
Good. So within 24 hours is the next 5 minutes. I'll be there.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of wiggle room there, I would
Oh,
suppose.
you just
Yep.
said it. You just said
Yep.
within 24 hours. That means there's something going on. You want me there. It's emergency, and you want me there. It's an emergency situation. I'll be there within 24 hours, which is the next 5 minutes.
Yep.
But if it's a non-emergency, that means it could be after 24 hours. That means after a day and a minute, I'll be there after that.
But I've seen it where their non-emergencies have been like a day, like that.
Yeah, but I think, Vinny, in my opinion, they're giving you a time period. It's a non-emergency, but we could get there in 5 minutes.
Right, right.
Whereas
Um,
it's non-emergency, and you're like, "Hey, 2 hours went by. Where are you?" It's non-emergency. We have up to 24 hours to get there. It's
no,
non-emergency.
they have up to 3 days to get there in a
Okay,
non-emergency.
it's a non-emergency. Okay, it's non-emergency, so we have up to 3 days to get there. So it's only 2 hours. 3 hours went by. We have up to
Yep,
3 days to get there.
yep,
But if it's an emergency, we're going to be there within 24 hours. So that means I'll see you in 5 minutes.
yep, yep. Okay, then note it says a district or CES supervisor may change a 24-hour response time frame to a 3-day response time frame under following paragraph, and only when child safety would not be impacted. When coordinated needs to occur with law enforcement and they cannot meet the 24-hour time frame, there is information to confirm the child safe from alleged abuser. When a referral is made to the Child Advocacy Center, CAC, and they cannot meet the 24-hour time frame, and there is information to confirm the child is safe from the alleged abuser. When a substance exposed infant, SEI, referring to referral is received, the infant is not being discharged from the hospital, and a longer response time is needed to make a more painful intervention. Um, Then they go on to the assignment activity tool completion. Prior to going into the field to conduct interviews, caseworkers complete any documents and assignment activity tool. Appendix B and review finalizing the tool, cooperating with the supervisor, including identifying who has legal custody, parental rights and responsibilities, arrangements, and whether the initial contact will be announced or unannounced. See, they didn't even announce themselves. They just came unannounced, just showed up, which it states right there that they're allowed to do both, announced or unannounced.
So if they're allowed to do both, then there's no concern.
There's no, yeah, you guys can't do nothing about it. You really
Yes, that's
can't.
right. That's right.
Um, then it will explains Child Advocacy Center CAC referrals. All investigations regarding child sexual abuse will be referred to the CAC. When referring to the CAC, the caseworker will A. Inform the non-offending parent that the caseworker is going to make a referral to a CAC and that a family advocate from the CAC will contact the parent explaining that the CAC will interview the child and follow a child center trauma informed and evidence based process that requires only one interview with the child, which is best practice for the victim. In as in minimizing trauma to the child, the family advocate from the CAC will provide the parent with the appointment time, further explanations of the process, and answers to any questions they may have. Call the CAC closest to where the child resides to refer the child for an interview. Appendix 0, and request that the CAC explore all abuse types. Provide the following information to the CAC. The caseworker's name and contact information to the CAC can notify the caseworker when the interview is scheduled. The OCFS response time frame 24 hours or 3 days to ensure that the CAC can complete the interview within their time frame regarding the child. The case number, the date of the report to OCFS, demographic information such as name, date of birth, assigned sex at birth, gender identity, etc. Whenever the child has any speech issues, has an individual education program, IEP, in a receipt of kitty bracket services, or needs any special accommodations, whether there is a family history of opioids used or exposure to opioids, whether the allegation offender has access to the child, what type of abuse has been allegated, sexual abuse, sex trafficking, exposure, or exploration, whether the child is exhibition, sexual behavior, and information obtained from a minimum fact interview. Who is the alleged parents, perpetrator, and their relationship to the child? Are there witnesses and or other victims? What happened? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Okay, I'm going to stop right there. And from my own case standpoint, um, there was no witnesses. Um, they don't know exactly what happened because this child has lied repeatedly and has been proven to be a pathological liar. Um, all their evidence is based on hearsay and hearsay alone. There is no physical proof. There is no anything in my case whatsoever. So the where, when, and how, it is null and void. That's a violation of their policy because they state right in here, are there witnesses? There is no witnesses. So the fact that this other person that she's staying with is saying she's a witness when she's never met the family and never been around these kids is a lie. Bald faced lie. Okay.
Okay.
Regarding the non-offending parent, demographic information, household composition, and whether there is a domestic violence in the home. Regarding the allegation offender, if known, demographic information, relationship to the child, whether they have access to the child, and whether they reside in the same household. Well, for one, I'm going to stop there again and state that when they took my two other daughters, I was not in the home. Okay. I was exactly 3 to 4 hours away when they took my kids. No court order in hand. They just removed them, didn't do even so much as a home visit to see the house, anything.
Well, let me ask you: did they remove child number one first before they removed the other two?
The child number one was already gone. She had
Okay,
gone up,
she's already
gone up.
gone.
Yeah, she was gone. She was out of the
She's
picture.
gone.
She was left like 2 days beforehand.
Okay, then they took child number two and three.
Yep.
So it sounds like they took child number two and three based on information from child number one.
Right. They're going off of hearsay again.
Okay, yeah, okay, they're going off of hearsay, but it's based on child number one.
Yep.
And whether you're home or not, I think was irrelevant.
It was irrelevant because when they took the children, they had an agreement that they were going to follow their policy and procedure as far as they're supposed to do a home visit before they even decide to take the children out of the home, which they never did.
But I think they made the decision on child number one.
And they had no proof of this, is what I'm saying, Herbert.
I understand. I understand there's no proof, but obviously child number one said things.
She said a lot of things. I mean,
Sure.
to the point of accusing her own mother of beating her with a 2x4. Now, we all know if you were to hit someone in the face with a 2x4, you're going to either A, break their nose, B, break their jaw, or C, knock their teeth out.
Or E, said other things that they haven't exposed to you.
Right.
And those other things is maybe what prompt them to say, well, we're going to take the other children out of the house before they get hurt, whether Vinny's home or not.
And they knew I wasn't here.
Well, I think it was irrelevant whether you were there or not. They were going to take the kids anyway.
Yeah. Well,
And
I had
again, based on what child number one said.
Yep. All right. Then it says initial contact with the critical case member. In initial interviews with the children must be completed within the 24 hours or 3 days assigned response time frame. In an investigation that do not involve allegations of child sexual abuse, an interview will be conducted using fact-finding child interview protocol, Appendix D, and documenting using the fact-finding child interview template, Appendix F. In the Child Welfare Information System, all other contacts with the child will be documented on the monthly caseworker contact with child template. The caseworker must interview each child alone. That is a lie. They do not have the right, accordance to the Constitution. The Constitution states that a parent with full parental power has the right to be present, especially if it is a minor child. And that is straight
Well,
Constitution.
I'll tell you again, just listening to your shows and researching my own research, I found that in a school, a teacher or a principal can talk to a child without the parents being present.
Yeah, oh yeah, they do pull it off. Yep. Yep.
They can do
I
that, right?
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
I've seen
So
that
if they
as
can
well.
do
Yep.
that, then CPS can also talk to a child without a parent being present.
Well, it goes on to the caseworker must interview each child alone. If the parent or caregiver refuses to allow the child to be interviewed alone, the caseworker will consult with the supervisor, program administration, and the assistant attorney general AAG as needed to determine next steps, e.g., seeking consent from another parent, petitioning the court for access to the child, etc. If the parent or caregiver refuses to allow the child to be interviewed at all, the caseworker will consult with the supervisor, program administrator, and a AAG as needed to determine next steps, e.g., seeking consent from another parent, petitioning the court to access to the child, etc. All planned interviews with the child must be audio recorded, accordance with 22 MRS dash 4021 and uploaded to the media file related list in the child welfare information system within 10 days, which is 10 business days. See 2.4 audio recording interview policies, and other recording interviews must also be uploaded.
So when they say within 10 business days, it can be uploaded within 5 minutes.
Right, right. Yep. It doesn't take long to upload an interview. It really doesn't.
You said, but it has to be done within 10 business days.
Yep. They have 10
Okay.
business days to do it.
So that could be within 5 minutes.
Right.
Okay.
Note, the caseworker is responsible for the safekeeping of recording device. If the recording device is lost or destroyed, the caseworker will make their supervisor and PA aware of this occurrence and precipitate fully in any attempts to locate the device. The incident of a lost recording device must be reported to the OCFS General Counsel or designee immediately so that appropriate assessments of confidential laws can be completed. In an investigation involving allegations of child sexual abuse, the CAC will contact the child interview. The caseworker will conduct a minimal fact interview when A. The interview cannot be scheduled with a response time frame. B. Child sexual abuse was not alleged in the report and the child disclosed sexual abuse during fact-finding interview, or C. The child disclosed sexual abuse during a monthly contact. 3. The caseworker and supervisor will discuss the time frame in which the sexual abuse alleged occurred to determine if immediate medical attention is necessary. If abuse has taken place within 3 days, a medical exam is recommended. No, if after a minimum fact interview, the caseworker is unable to determine that the child is safe without the further information, the caseworker will conduct a full fact-finding interview exploring all areas of abuse and neglect, including the sexual abuse allegations, which they really didn't do. I mean, um, they kind of threw me out of the house, did not really talk to me much, told me I had to leave, that I could not be around my children. I could not be around my wife. Um, I don't see how any of this is relevant because they're not following through with policies and procedures. They really are not. Um, I argue that with anyone for the simple fact that I'm seeing that, they never contacted the non-offending parent to let them know about the CAC with my second daughter. Um, and no one even got a hold of us to let us know that it was going to be happening. Um, so again, they're not following through with policies and procedures. Um, I don't know what to say to that. Really, I really don't. Um, Policies and procedures need to be changed. The fact that these people have this much power is wrong. To be able to uh, pretty much crucify a parent is not right. And it's not fair to the fathers or to the mothers going through all this anxiety, all this stress, all this depression due to C- overzealous CPS workers, which there are overzealous CPS workers. I was watching a thing today where a CPS attorney actually argued with the Supreme Court and said that CPS has the right to do certain things, and the Supreme Court's like, no, you really don't. So these people are getting away with violating our rights, violating due process of law. They're not doing their investigations properly. They're using a computer here in Maine called Katahdin. It's an AI software. They put you in it. The initial phone call is when they're supposed to use it, and instead they're using it throughout everyone's case. So, in other words, as they enter data into this computer, this AI is telling them whether they should reunify with the parent or even do a reunification plan with a parent. It starts with a point system. It starts at 1 and goes to 10. If you're in that 10 period, you guess what? You're not going to get your reunification in Maine. It's not going to happen. Um, Let me read on to physical observation. of the child must be completed for both verbal and nonverbal children. The caseworkers must observe each child in a manner that allows the caseworker to have confidence that the child's body is free of signs of physical abuse and neglect, keeping in mind the child's trauma, history, age, and needs for personal boundaries and privacy. This includes parts of the body where they are likely to be physical indications of abuse that would only be observed when the child is unclothed. From an infant, this must include watching a diaper change when conducting investigation activities in person. For a child who is walking, the caseworker will ask the child to move around. If the child is able to observe the child from different vantage points and make observations about whether the child is moving naturally with ease and comfort. For child sexual abuse allegations, a referral for physical exam must be made to a medical professional, which I never seen that in any of the reports either. Um, I've gone through them, I've looked through them. I don't see a medical examination done. Um, so again, these people are violating their own policies and procedures. Um, as as families and parents, we need to speak out against this because these people are violating their own policies and procedures and getting away with it. Um, we need to assert that their policies and their guidelines are not admissible, really, because a lot of them don't even follow their policies and procedures. Um, I'm seeing that throughout this case. I'm seeing that the guardian ad litem is obviously lying, bald faced lying on a court document. And the AAG is signing off, not the judge. The AAG is signing everything, um, which is to me against the law. It should be signed by a judge, not an AAG. The AAG is just the attorney general. He should not be signing the court documentations. It should be the judge. I'm sorry. I will argue with anyone on that as well, that a judge is supposed to be signing these court documents that are sent, not an AAG. And I have physical proof of an AAG actually signing to my dismissal. He signed the whole bottom, dated it, and stamped it with his stamp, stating he was signing off on it. Um, excuse me, you're not a judge. Since when is an AAG, Attorney General, a judge? He's not. So again, people, you got to watch your paperwork because I tell you, they're looking for anything to screw you the best way they know how. And they will play you against your other half, or you against your spouse, or you against your girlfriend, or you against your boyfriend, and any in that matter. Um, they like to play that game. It is a head game that CPS does play. And they use the kids as pawns. And they tell you that if you don't do what they say, they're going to take your children. And I've seen it, I've heard it, I've witnessed it, and it's not the faint of hearts, people. These people do not care what you have to say. It is what they want and what they go after. And yes, I am seeing a lot of trafficking of kids happening. And Darren's right about a lot of that. They are in fact trafficking kids up here in Maine. They are taking almost any kid that has any little sign of like not going to school or um, a little malnutrition, but they're not taking in consideration that nowadays it's even hard to feed your children on two incomes and trying to provide a roof over their heads. Um, Rent is anywhere from 1,800 to almost $3,000 to $4,000 up here. So, and then you got on top of that, our electricity went up, um, food has gone up. They're not taking any of this in consideration, and they're not really helping the families like they used to.
Hmm.
They're not providing adequate medical care. They're making you pay a copay. Um, they're not providing food stamps the way they should. Um, and it's ridiculous to see that they're not providing help for families in need. And that's what they
They're-
originally were set up for.
Right. They're creating this vortex for them to take your kids.
That's
They're
right.
creating exactly
Yep.
what they need for them to take your kids. If you're
Yep.
struggling, they're coming for your children.
Yep. And that's what they're using as their fire, as you will.
Yep.
And I've noticed that throughout like all the cases that I've heard, um, even talking to my friend Crystal, um, they made her a deal, like I was saying last night. Um, she gave up her youngest for her other two. I
That's
don't know.
insane. That is absolutely disgusting that they would make her have to come up with the to make a choice like that.
I agree.
If that doesn't tell you that this is all about money, then what does it tell you? Because that's a child, a little baby. Because how old was the littlest one?
I think he was 3.
Yeah. So that just doesn't tell you anything, man. That's an adoptable child.
Yep.
And here you could have your other two, but we're going to keep this one. So if you're good enough for two, why aren't you good enough for the third? No,
Right.
sorry, we're going to get money for that third one.
And it irks me to see that. It really does.
Should
You
irk
know,
anybody. I mean, that's literally kidnapping. That's stealing children. That's disgusting. You know,
and
that's
the
just
fact
awful.
that she would even go along with that and not fight it when she has the proof of everything. She has the proof of the physical abuse against on her son at the foster care. This child, he looks so sick. You see his rib cage. He's come back to visits with bruises on his face, bruises down his whole side. Um, and these people are just not doing anything about it, and she has the proof. Um, and for her not to be fighting for her kids, I'm not happy with that. Hey, Ashley, welcome in. Um, but there is so much in these policies and procedures that I do not agree with. As far as them lying, um, when they first had the first family team meeting, we straight up asked them, okay, um, whether or not there was going to be a police presence there. And they straight up told us there is no officers to be at this meeting. It is a family team meeting. We do not do that. Lo and behold, my mother and my other half and someone else get there, and lo and behold, a state trooper's there. I didn't go to this meeting because, like, I know how CPS works. They say one thing and then do another. Um, and the state cop did her investigation, um, not thoroughly because she didn't talk to everyone involved that was there in the team meeting. I did not see a report from the aunt. I did not see one from the cousin. I did not see one from the stepson, and they were left out completely. Like, they were there, they were at the family team meeting, but she never talked to them, not once. I don't understand. They didn't even talk to my mother, not once.
That's the other thing, man, is they're getting away with not interviewing anybody around.
Nope.
They didn't the same thing with me. They didn't interview anybody around. They didn't talk to anybody in my family. They didn't talk to not a person. Just us. That was it.
Well, the
Even he
guardian,
was a long shot.
even the guardian ad litem did it in my case too.
Yep.
She didn't even talk. She talked to me for like 5 minutes, and that was it. How are
Are
you
they
going to know somebody
required?
in 5 minutes?
Are they required to talk to other people?
Oh yeah. Oh yes. By law, they are required to not only invest. The GAL is supposed to talk to the parents, the grandparents, and anyone involved or around the kids. So that would include me, Lynn, my mom, my dad, my sisters, my best friend Chris. They were all around my kids and me. Not once did she speak to anybody. Not once. And she's gotten away with doing it.
It
And
makes
I
me wonder
mentioned
how
it.
they're writing these reports, these in-depth reports about everything that's going on when they don't interview anybody.
Well, I mean, I gotta say, I was reading her guardian ad litem report, and it stated that my second child was never placed with the first child at the residence. That is a lie, because she was placed there as soon as she got out of Acadia, which is Acadia Hospital, uh, out of Bangor. She was released from there and put in the same house as the first child, who was physically abusive towards her and emotionally abusive. And now the second child wants nothing to do with me or her mother, because this guardian ad litem lies on a report.
Yeah, see, that's child abuse. That's
Yep.
child abuse. That's true child abuse right there. That is mental abuse. That's disgusting that they're all getting away with this. I mean, how is that not? How is that not?
I don't know. I really don't.
It is.
It's just disgusting. But yet they keep
And
getting away with it. And these are the people that make the decisions for our children.
that's right. Yep.
And how many times has the GAL interviewed you?
Not once.
Right. So how can they even have anything to say about you? Because they're supposed to be neutral, right?
Yes, they're supposed to be a neutral party, and they're supposed to be on the side of the children.
Right. So if they've never interviewed you, how can they even put anything in a report about you if they're neutral? They should know nothing about you other than someone else's version of you. They're supposed to investigate you and find out about you by themselves. So how is any of these people neutral when they already come with an idea of who you are and what you've done? Doesn't make any sense. That's not neutral.
Nope. She's definitely not neutral. And I've come to find out that she actually, in fact, works for CPS, which I'm trying to figure out if she's in their payroll. Because if I find that,
Go to the main state checkbook, man.
yeah, I was thinking that. Because my attorney told me the other day that the case, the CPS case, if I can prove that this case is based off of hearsay, it has a major effect on the criminal case.
Of course it does. They have no physical evidence, right?
Right. There is no physical.
Herbert, how does that work? In the law, I mean, if you have no physical evidence, that's proof enough that it's hearsay, right?
Yeah, you have to have some physical evidence. Even when a person says they committed a crime, you still have to research it, because there's a lot of nutcases out there saying they did something, but unless you can prove they did it, then they didn't do it.
Right. Well, they're trying to say they have text messages. Mind you, these text messages they said that they had came from Facebook. Well, they did a search and seizure warrant twice on my Facebook and came back with nothing.
The text messages from who?
From the stepdaughter.
Okay, so they're saying that there's text messages in your Facebook from the stepdaughter?
Yeah,
But when they checked, there was none.
there was nothing.
Okay, so then they don't have any proof there.
They have, and I even showed my attorney that there's two apps out there that allow you to put a picture of a person in a box and make it look like you're chatting with this person. Mind you, it took um the person she's staying with and the so-called victim 4 days to produce these messages.
It actually sounds like your situation, your case, is not so much against CPS as it is against your stepdaughter.
It's it's more or less against a overzealous woman who's never been a part of these kids' lives, has lied on police reports and court documents and CPS documents stating that she met them. No, she's not, because she's never lived up here. We never traveled to New Hampshire where these people lived because my wife at the time didn't have her license. She had just gotten it not even a year and a half before we moved down here. Um, and we weren't traveling to New Hampshire, which was from where we were to them was 6 hours away. Just was not happening.
Okay, I'm confused because you said the overzealous woman. Who is
Yep.
that? Your daughter or your wife? Who's the overzealous woman?
That she is the married into the family. She married my wife's cousin, so she's married into the family. Um, she posted on a post on my wife's page one day, mouthing off to me, and I commented under to her, "Listen, you blankety blank blank, you need to go yourself and your fatness." And she saw it, and since then she has hated my guts.
Okay, so the overzealous woman who's part of your family now hates your guts.
Hates me with a passion
Okay, fine. Where does that come into play with your daughter?
because she she went up to go do her permit testing. I didn't agree upon it.
She is who? The overzealous woman?
Nope, nope. The child went up
Okay,
to,
you gotta be specific because
yep,
you confused me. So the child went up to the overzealous woman.
yep. And she was supposed to be with the aunt. She was left in the care of the aunt. And that's where we were told she was going to be staying. Mind you, a day later she ended up at the cousin's house.
Who's the
Um,
cousin?
uh, uh, her her cousin
Is it
is he lives in her grandparents' old house
he?
because
So this a he now. So
there's
she
a
went
he
to
and a
he.
she.
So she went to he, the cousin, not the overzealous woman.
Nope, the overzealous woman is what got her to come to the house. Um, so she spent the night there, and in conversation, she was talking to her about um the abuse with the grandfather that happened, and it states in the police report that this woman, the overzealous woman, inje- she injected my name into the conversation, and I could read it word for word. It states right on the report that she asked, "Has anyone else abused you like Vinny?" And it just the way she said it explains everything. She injected my name into a conversation that was not meant to be in a conversation. It was a conversation about the former grandfather who is dead, who did molest all three of the children.
All three of your children.
Um, my one, her two.
You're one, her two. So that
Yep.
means that you have one and your wife has two.
Yep. And then
Okay.
and
So
then
then why don't we
I
just
have my
say,
oldest.
since she's your
Uh,
wife, that's all three of your children.
they're not my children. I do not consider them my children. I do not. I'm sorry, Herbert, but when it comes to everything that I've gone through with these kids and the way I have been treated, um, they're not my children. I will
I
never call
totally
them my
get that.
children.
But for the sake of the story, as soon as you said your wife, if she has children, those are your stepchildren. You see?
In theory,
So,
yeah, yeah.
okay, yeah, but you got to go in theory because I was, as you're telling the story, I'm trying to follow it. So, the grandfather, whoever it is, he he violated all three children.
Yes.
Okay, so that's all three of your children. One, your biological. Two, your step. That's all three children.
Mm.
Okay.
And the other two children didn't. The two oldest didn't come out until my daughter said something by calling the police and reporting it. They had a full blown investigation, and nothing was done. He got away with doing it.
Nothing was done. He got away. He who?
The grandfather.
Okay. So the grandfather got away. Nothing was done with the grandfather.
Nope. We were told just to keep the kids away. And of course, I called my mom. I told my mom what was going on, and we moved here. And
Okay.
I moved them away from up there.
Okay.
So again, me protecting the children, and I've been the one that has been getting backlash this entire time. Um, I'm gonna call it as I see it, and I'm gonna tell the truth. My wife pretty much was not a mother to these children. She was their best friend. If I would ground them, she would overturn it. If I took something away, she would give it back. Um, she was the one that allowed these kids to do as they wanted, with no regard to any authority, even me. They walked all over me. They did what they wanted. They played her as a fool, used her, lied to her, um, and got away with it. And she would not back me at all. And yet,
So
here I am explaining my story to everyone, and I'm the one that's being crucified for trying to upbring these children and instill that responsibility is a big thing. You got to have accountability for your behavior. You got to have responsibility for what you're doing. Um, Groundation was not that bad. Yes, I took a phone away. I took a tablet away. I took a computer away. Or I didn't allow them to go to their friend's house. That's a punishment. Yet it was overturned every time.
by her.
Yep.
Okay. So that sounds like you have an issue with the wife.
I've had that issue with the wife for years, and I'm trying to work on it with her the best I can. But it's hard to get through.
Have you tried counseling?
Yep, we're doing marriage counseling. I'm doing regular counseling. There's been talk about family counseling for the family, yet I haven't seen this be done yet. So I have no clue. Um, but as far as everything that's happened and all the allegations that are going around, it's ridiculous because they have no physical proof. They have no evidence, and they're basing it slowly off of a child who has stolen money from people, who has threatened to kill herself more than 5 times, has been caught in school having sexual relations with other girls, has been caught in school having marijuana on her, and they're believing everything she said. Mind you, there is a report from when she threatened suicide and was sent to a hospital, a psychiatric ward, that states that um, she had sexual relations with another guy, and it was forced. It was not forced because they were boyfriend and girlfriend, and she was sneaking around with him without anyone knowing. Yet she accuses him of sexual abuse in this report. But nowhere does it say anything about me in it. Not once.
Okay. So when you say that you were not interviewed and your wife was not interviewed, is it possible your wife was interviewed and your wife was against you? Because it seems like your wife is for the children, allowing them to do what they want to do.
I don't know. I don't know the truth because she will not give me the truth.
Okay. So the wife won't give you the truth. So it's very possible that the evidence they have stacked up against you has to do with an interview they had with the wife.
I have no clue. I do know that I've heard the voice interview that she had, and I blatantly confronted her about it, and she couldn't give me a straight answer. Not one.
The voice interview that she had, was it detrimental to you?
It wasn't really. I mean, she just said that um, I disciplined too much and I raised my voice. I raised my voice to get my presence known because I don't I don't believe in spanking my child. I really don't. I do not believe in hitting any child for that matter. I believe in bringing my voice up above key so they understand that I mean business.
So I think going back a ways where you were talking, where there was no interview with other people, that maybe there was interview with your wife. That's kind of like what it sounds like.
I I know that she is on a couple of the reports, but it doesn't show me what was said at all. It's a redacted.
Okay, that's part of their investigation.
Yep.
So you have the stepdaughter, you have the wife, and they're both packing up against you.
Well, with her, I've asked her, and my family has asked her point blank, what happens if they try to use the kids against her, and they tell her, well, it's either him or your kids. What is she going to do? And she still won't answer to this day. Not once. And I know it's going to be coming. I have that feeling, even though, my new lawyer thinks that we have a strong case, and so doesn't my criminal attorney. That they both talked on Friday. They had a 2-hour conversation in person, and then another hour over the phone. And they both agree that this whole entire case is nothing but hearsay. So, I mean, with them both saying that it's hearsay, there's got to be something.
I agree. I agree with you.
And I'm supposed to have an interview, a meeting with my criminal defense attorney on Monday via Zoom, and to discuss court for the 20th. Um, they have come forward with, offers once already, and I turned the first offer down because I'm not taking any of their offers because I can prove that this case is based upon hearsay. So I would rather take my chances at not taking any of their offers.
Okay.
But we're about out of time for this evening. It's 7:30. I started the show about 6:25-ish, so we were a little early tonight, but that's okay. So I just want to ask if anyone out there listening or watching, any last words, any last comments? Ashley, I know you're paying attention. Herbert, last word.
My last words is to your listeners to not have to go through what Vinny's going through. You really need to learn all you can about CPS to avoid being on their radar. And to remember that in order to have CPS come into your home or law enforcement, they have to have due cause. They have to have a warrant. They have to have some documentation that gives them the license and privilege to enter your home. And that's all I have to say right now.
Darren, you got any last words in here? I know you're there.
Make sure that anything you do is done by email. No talking to them, no nothing. Any conversation is transcribed some way, somehow. Don't give them anything. Don't give them the bullets, man. Don't give them bullets for the gun. Make sure you have everything in writing, period, end of story. Don't think they're your friends. They're not your friends. They're not your sisters. They're not anything. Make sure everything is done by email. That way you always have a copy of it.
Amen to that. And Ashley's last words she put in here are always fight and never give up, ever. And my last words for tonight is hate your caseworker as much as you hate your judge. Until next week on Monday, you guys all have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you back here Monday. We're out of here.
Who has been torn away from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stopped the boogeyman from terrorizing the nights and curing their boo-boos when they scrape their knees. Now just imagine how they mightest feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calm. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.